universities are financially sustainable. Part of these include the introduction of the student-centered funding model, which replaced the DUC, under which universities were seriously underfunded. The ongoing law reform process is also geared towards ensuring that the governance frameworks in our public universities are effective, efficient, transparent, and accountable to prudent use of university resources. We have also instructed our public universities to address staff issues as and when they arise, instead of overlooking them until they assume crisis proportions. Overall, Mr. Speaker, the measures to improve governance and sustainable financing at our public universities will also support the enhancement of infrastructure in our public universities. We have also encouraged our universities to work on alternative resource mobilization initiatives in order to minimize reliance on exchequer. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senator from Nairobi County, do you have any supplementary questions?
Speaker, indeed, I do have one supplementary question, but before I ask that supplementary question, I just need some clarity on the answer that has been provided by the CS. Honorable CS, you have said that you are supplying a net payroll support of 145 million, knowing that the monthly wage bill for the institution is 272 million per month. Can you clarify to me whether this 145 that you say is for the period January 2025 to 30th June 2025 is a monthly support of 145, or the 145 is for those 3 months, which would be a drop in the ocean when you compare with the monthly wage bill? Secondly, there's a mention of conditional grants that you say will bridge the budget gap. Unfortunately, you have not provided any figures, CS. Do you have a figure of the total amount of the conditional grant that is going to be supported, the institution is going to be supported with? And lastly, last clarification, Honorable Speaker, there is language that is suspicious in the response on the recovery measures. I don't understand what you mean by staff right-sizing. This is the first time in my entire life that I have heard that word, staff right-sizing. Are you saying you're going to sack people? And if it is that is what you are saying, can it come from you clearly, which cadre of staff are affected and the numbers? And then, Speaker, I can ask my supplementary question then. Because those were just clarifications. This language is, that language is confusing. What is right-sizing? Are you cutting people down to size?
Proceed.
Now, Honorable Speaker, the supplementary question that I wanted to ask is whether this idea of transforming these middle-level colleges like Kenya Polytechnic into universities without sound financial and research grounding was ill-thought, and given the inability of these institutions to self-fund from internal resources. He has brought that question very clearly, Honorable Speaker, that these institutions are unable to self-sustain because of the sources of funding. Would you still, as a government, support this policy of transforming these mid-level colleges like Kenya Poly into universities? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For clarification, first clarification, Honorable Sifuna, the 145 million is monthly support. Monthly support to cover a gross payment of salary from January 2025 to June 2025. The conditional grant figures, we have them inbuilt in the 12.9 billion figure that we are supposed to pay, which we spread out from 2025-26 year to 2030-31. There is a schedule of how much per year we are giving so that that figure can be met. The idea was, take the 12.9 billion, spread it out because the government cannot afford to pay all of it at once. Spread it out because, for example, if you take the 4.3 billion, that is the amount for pension, we know it is not required all at once. So we spread that figure out so that at least when people retire, they do not go home without any money. So we put in some money current so that when you retire, you are getting money, and we keep increasing that figure so that by the end of 2031, we'll have cleared the debt and will be in a position of sustainability. On right sizing, Mr. Speaker, this is rationalization of the staff. What I will explain further, Honorable Senator. What we found is that in universities, the ratio of teaching staff to non-teaching staff is supposed to be 70 to 30. But what we have in most of our institutions is the opposite. We have academic staff that are 30 to 70. So right sizing or rationalization is as you continue employing, you see where do you need to employ and where do you need to release. For example, if a casual or somebody is on contract and you find is in the 70% portion, you do not replace that person. You let them go at the end of their contract so that you have an opportunity to bring this other side above in order to right size. There is going, of course, to be issues relating to sending people home, but that is dependent on a program that would work if that becomes necessary, just like what we've done in Moi. What we did in Moi, we agreed that the first thing that will happen is the people whose contracts are coming to an end and are not required to be renewed because they're in the category of where you have more than you need, you don't renew their contract. But then, when you move to want to deal with the rest of the group, let's say you want to send them home, you have to work using the normal, because it's a labor right, using the normal process. Discuss with them, discuss with the unions, and you must have funds if you are sending people home to pay them so that they go home. So these are the strategies or structures that we put in place. One, to ensure that we have sustainable programs in the universities, but we also do not offend the rights of the employees. So we are not just going to sack people and tell them, go home. We are going to work with them and with the unions to ensure that we have a program, a transition program, where we are going to be able to ensure that we are reaching the right level. That is the right sizing, rationalization that we are talking about. But we are going to work together with them. We are not going to wake up and say, this group go home. There could even those who are willing to voluntarily come and say, I want to go home, can I have my redundancy package and stuff like that. Now, the issue of transforming these mid-level colleges into universities, of course, came about because there was a number of students, as you very well know. The university spaces, if you remember, was that if people do exams and they're supposed to go to universities, what used to happen is you start from the position of how many spaces do we have in the universities for us to admit. Then you do a cutoff point and say, this year we are taking students from B and above. So you find that even the people who are actually qualified to go to universities were not getting the spaces. That is the basis upon which the transformation of these middle colleges to universities came about. But where we are now, the conversation needs to be had to confirm whether we have enough. For instance, this year, the spaces we have in universities to accommodate students, the available spaces are 305,000. The people who qualified on the C+ to go to universities are 246,000. That means we have almost 60,000 available space to admit other students. So the question would be, do we really need to do or create more universities? Because we are not getting enough students to admit. So it's a conversation that we'll have, and at each and every discussion, this is the rationalization, the discussion, the assessment that needs to be done, including the financial implications of it, to see whether it is possible to upgrade. But otherwise, currently we have almost 79 universities in the country, for 3 of them being public, the rest being private. So we have enough spaces to admit all our students. So it's a conversation, as I said, that would need to be had depending on the need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I submit.
Senator Professor Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and thank you, Minister, for the answers. I'm just wondering about the universities in relation to the TVETs, and you answered the question earlier about the TVETs. How much space do we have in the TVET and mid-level colleges to absorb our students? I'm asking that because you have rightfully said the percentage to the university is about 20% of those who did KCSE. You have also said that those figures are at least well accommodated as far as admission is concerned, because we have even extra room. how many do we have in the middle level? This percentage that qualifies to go to college, what capacity do we have for them? That's for the mid-level, before we even talk of VCTs. I know since you are a minister of both basic and higher education, we also have students who were offloaded in class 8, who couldn't go to secondary school because the spaces in secondary school were less than the spaces, the output that came out of primary schools. What plans does the ministry have to make sure that we don't offload our children actually to the streets? Because they are either somewhere or they are nowhere, and we will find them out there in the streets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, just note down the question. Senator Eddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, CS, for coming to answer these questions. Honorable Speaker, my supplementary question is on question number 58C, that the Senator of Nairobi had sought to understand the government strategy on generally addressing the issues and the challenges currently afflicting public universities, particularly by perennial strikes by academic staff. My question to the CS is, Bona CS, is there a specific remedy or a variety of remedies that you have put in place to deal with the disadvantage that students get with these strikes, and particularly where sometimes they're not concerned? A particular case in example is the rampant cases of late or delayed schooling. For instance, when there is a delayed element of or changes in calendars, where you find that a student is supposed to even graduate in a year's time, there is delayed calendars to the extent that they end up graduating in 2 years or 3 years. This is becoming a very serious issue in public universities, Honorable Speaker, that I think that it's an issue that needs to be dealt with for once and for all. So is there specific remedies that the ministry is putting in place to make sure that those disadvantaged students are also catered for in the middle of these perennial strikes? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mariam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, my question is on paragraph 31, which is the minister saying that he will pay a net payroll of supports payroll 145, but the gross one is 272. So there is what you call avoidable expenditure, which if you have not remitted the statutory deduction on time, there is interest per month. So how will the minister take care of the interest? Thank you.
Senator Onyonka.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to raise a supplementary question to the CS. CS, first of all, I want to welcome you as my CS because we come from the same county, but professionally I'm happy. I'm declaring my interest, Mr. Speaker. The question I wanted to ask CS is that given the fact that you realize we are having a challenge on the housing problem within these institutions, has the ministry done an audit to find out, for example, how many hostels do all our TVETs need? And most probably, I'm sure, CS, you know, even all our universities have no housing facilities or hostels. What is the most probable resolution or solution would you offer this country in terms of either systematically spread out over a period of time so that we can then solve the issue of the deficit of all our universities and technical vocational training institutes where our children, young children, have no places to stay. And I'm sure, like you heard Honorable Boni Halwale state, that even when these young men and women are going for this training, these untoward issues of alcohol abuse and social dysfunction, if we had hostels which are managed properly and were observing the law, we would actually make our children are responsible and they worked hard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Gataya. Senator Mofire.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question is written to the predecessor to the current minister came here, and I had the same question. There is this school called Kamutwado Primary School, which was allocated 20 million. 2 million was advanced. That was 2019-2020 financial year. And up to now, that school has not gotten the balance of 80 million. That is 2019-2020 financial year. The predecessor, Honorable Machogu, the CS Machogu, had promised to give them balance. I don't know whether in your archives you have that information, Honorable Waziri. There is also the Tharaka Technical College, which the community and the board would want it elevated to the National Polytechnic, because that is the only technical that serves quite a very huge population, the entire lower part of Eastern Province and some part of Kambani and some parts of Maua. So the community and the board would request that this technical be upgraded to the National Polytechnic to serve the intended purpose. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Boni.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. CS, let's admit it. From your table here, the school needs 12.9 billion shillings in pending bills. And CS, you want to give them 145 million per month for 6 months. That is a total of 870 million shillings. In view of the paltry 207 million that they are able to generate on their own, let's admit it, the college is insolvent. Can you make an undertaking, Minister, because you can't do it now, that a few weeks or months from now, you will present to the public a comprehensive strategy of how you want to rid this problem of insolvency at the Technical University College. Having said that, allow me to make a passing remark, briefly, Speaker, that the government must do something so that you talk to parents that it is not a must that every child gets a university degree. The courses that were being offered by the Kenya Polytechnic that was converted were equally competitive in the job market. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may now proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To Professor Kamar's question, how much space we have in the mid-level colleges. Mr. Speaker, we are spaces available to almost 1 million in TVETs. This is because of the structure of the programs that are offered. As I indicated, we have modularized those programs, and so students can come in and out. And remember, when TVETs were formed, they were supposed to absorb the students who are not going to universities. Now, in 2025, we had a total of 375,000 students in TVETs, when the student admission to universities was at 22%, and universities had almost 800,000 students. So the pyramid was inverted. We had more students in universities than in TVETs, when we should be having more students in TVETs than universities. So we started a program of increasing the enrollment of these students, and we targeted even above 1 million. When we started in January this year, we've raised the enrollment from 375,000 to almost 700,000 as we speak. And they are all in college, and we do admissions in January, we do admissions in May, we do admissions ongoing every quarter. So there is enough space to admit the students in our institutions, both TVET and VTCs, those ones who do not go to universities. And to Senator Boni Kalwale's recommendation, it is true that some of the courses, because even now universities have a TVET institution within them, so that we have students who go to a university but they go to the TVET in the university, meaning that these are now courses that we can agree that we need to absorb our students into those universities. And that goes to answer the question of, we have a number of our students or young people between the age of 18 and 35 who are neither in formal school or in formal employment. So they are the ones that are out here, which the TVET is supposed to absorb and remove them from the streets so that we can skill them to be able to play a role in the economy, so that we have plumbers, we have electricians, we have engineers, they can progress, and there are many other IT programs that we are offering in that space. So it is important that all of us start working. In fact, the issue of enrollment to TVETs is being spearheaded in conjunction with Ngao, because we are using an all-of-government approach, and we're ensuring that these people, when they go to barazas, they tell the parents what is important or how useful the courses that would be in those institutions are covered. Apart from that, we have a lot of equipment in those institutions of TVET. So learning on hands-on learning is that much more effective. And recently we passed a policy called dual training policy, where our students would be taught in institutions for 50% of the time, and the other 50% they go to industry. And we are signing collaboration agreements with industry in various places of the people doing textile, people doing any other industry, so that we can have our children, when they are learning, to learn hands-on. So there's something that we are doing in this space to ensure that we reduce the number of our students who are not skilled. Senator Eddie's question, is there a specific remedy to deal with? Yes, what happened is, for example, in Moi, if you recall, there were students who are doing medicine, and they had been in that institution for 9 years, for courses that were taking 6 years. So they had lost 3 years in that university. So when the strike came, and we came up with a package to resolve the issues of Moi, we also came up with a package to resolve that problem of those medical students, which related